There goes the money. There goes the money. So, Shane McMahon has gone from WWE.
He is. This broke yesterday via Ringside News, and actually, it got to be said that we held off on this just to wait for a few more sources, but it's been since confirmed by basically everybody in the know, and we're now going to tell you everything that you need to know about Shane McMahon's WWE departure.
I'm sad that Ross is not here for this one.
Me
I feel like every time major Shane news breaks, he's on holiday.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the reactions.
Yeah.
Front page of bloody Squared Circle. Check those out. Sorry, I'm not Ross. I apologise.
We broke Reddit, or Ross rather, broke Reddit with his bellows of sadness. But we're going to talk about something. We're going to talk about the whole breakdown of what happened with Shane McMahon. So PW Insider have gone quite into the weeds on this one. So there were creative plans for Shane McMahon to be a regular on Monday Night Raw heading into WrestleMania. We'd heard talk about him maybe feuding with Seth Rollins, maybe feuding with Bobby Lashley, picking up something with Kevin Owens again. McMahon had been pushing also to work Austin Theory at WrestleMania, with the idea playing out of Theory's involvement with Vince McMahon. Who is your favourite son?
I like that, actually.
Well, it's not happening. It wasn't completely locked in. There were other forces pushing for Shane McMahon versus Seth Rollins, as we said, at WrestleMania 38. And there'd been,
What a waste of Rollins that would have been.
There'd been a planned sequence at one point to set this up in the Rumble, because a few sources had said that up until a couple of weeks before, like, Rollins was factored into the Rumble, and they were going to do a bit with him and Shane in the Rumble to get there, but of course that ended up not being a thing either. Yesterday, Shane McMahon was internally pulled from the Raw roster. The word making the rounds was that the direction had changed. Shane consequently was not backstage at Raw this past Monday.
That's right, and the writers found out about this by basically being told no need to pitch any sort of new creative for Shane McMahon. He's not around anymore.
I mean, the only person really pitching creative for Shane McMahon was Shane McMahon. In regards to stories of McMahon taking the heat for some aspects of the Rumble, because a lot of that seemed to fall on Shane, because he's been part of the Rumble team for the last couple of years, and the last couple of Rumbles have been good. But this was, I think he took more control over this one, and he just kind of decided to go, right, hear me out, lads. What if I'm in the Rumble and I beat up Riddle? Hear me out, lads. I'm going to survive 2 super kicks and chuck out Kevin Owens.
Kevin Owens. Thanks for re-signing, Kev. It really was bonkers. Apparently, the absence of Fit Finlay and TJ Wilson as well, like, playing a big part in the poor Rumble. It was a boring Rumble, wasn't it?
And I love the Rumble. It was a boring Rumble. It was said that Shane was frustrated on the day of the shows. This is from PW Insider still. Some believe that came from his ideas being shot down by Vince McMahon. The talk it was that he was upset that he wasn't being allowed to do what he wanted, and he was greatly preoccupied by his own role in the Rumble.
Which was limited, what we saw anyway. Maybe it was meant to be more in Shane McMahon's head, but like, he wasn't in there for too long. I know he got to the final 3. It was final 3, wasn't it? It was. Bloody hell.
There was one quote from one source, I think it was either Peter Insider or Wade Keller, who we'll get to in a minute, which said that Shane McMahon was willing to put Brock Lesnar over. That's very giving of you, Shane.
See, right,
I am willing to put... All right, then,
I've enjoyed the Shane stuff in recent years. Genuinely. I think it went a little bit too far, but I thought it was self-aware. I thought the joke was that this guy thinks he's the greatest professional wrestler in the world, and that's a funny way to get heat. And I think it was effective at the start, and then it became really played out. But I actually enjoyed it. Everything that we're hearing now suggests that Shane McMahon genuinely does think that he's the best wrestler in the world, or is the best wrestler in the world, and I've been the fool here, and there is no self-awareness.
If it was self-aware, he'd have had that strike exchange with Riddle and been clattered. But instead, Riddle's absorbing strikes from Shane McMahon, who then absorbs 2 super kicks. What a guy. In regard to stories of McMahon taking the heat, that is all seemingly very true, as we've said. the feeling among some is that Shane is taking the brunt of the heat for the poor reception to the boring Men's Rumble match, and when it blows over, he may return. That seems, depending on what you're reading, it seems unlikely at this time, because he's currently involved in other businesses outside of wrestling that he could just simply just roll back into and crack on with.
He's the executive chairman of Ideanomics, I believe it's pronounced.
They do electric cars and
Is
stuff.
that what they do? I've never looked into it. There you go.
Of all the people that were getting frustrated with what was happening in the planning of the Rumble, there was concern for how Bad Bunny was doing, right? Because they didn't want to upset Bad Bunny. Andrew Zarian of Mad Men says that Bad Bunny's role in the Rumble changed constantly throughout the day.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't want to upset this guy.
No, and why would you? Why would you? Like, he's come in, he's a massive name, he's given WWE loads of exposure, and apparently they were messing about with, like, the entry order and changing his number numerous times throughout the day, so he didn't know where he's at. And with that sort of thing, like, if you're coming in, he's not a pro, is he? He's amazing, he's really talented and everything, but he's not a pro. He can't, like, he needs to know exactly what he's doing and at what point he's doing it, right? And it's bonkers that they would mess around with Bad Bunny. It does not reflect well on the company at all.
Wade Keller of PW Torch gave further details, not just on the day of the Rumble, but also the relationship between Shane and Vince McMahon, saying that things really unraveled with him and his dad on Saturday. Things were not good, according to what I heard. This was almost a last straw for a lot of people in WWE when it comes to Shane and his dad. For the third year in a row, he was brought in to help produce the Rumble, as we've said. It was sort of a dad favour to his son. Shane's creative ideas over the decades have been laughed at behind his back. He was never seen as having a good creative wrestling mind. Best in the world.
That's the thing, like, I was genuinely surprised, and I was very doubtful about these backstage reports of heat on Shane McMahon initially. When they first came out, I thought, come on. Because for a long time, he's been seen as one of the boys, and he's refused to do various things that the wrestlers do, because he didn't see himself in that way. There are various stories floating about from the late Attitude Era where Shane didn't feel that he was a professional wrestler. So I guess it seems like he's changed a lot in the past 20 years.
He started believing his own press releases, maybe.
Yeah, which is because he is bloody good, right? I think genuinely he's a very underrated name from the Attitude Era. The stuff that he did was awesome, and I'm not just talking about the high spots. The feuds in which he was booked in, I thought were all really entertaining, and he always proved his worth. But yeah, I think things have changed.
Keller talks a bit more about Shane's conduct on the day of the Rumble, saying, from what I'm told directly from people there, he was really self-centered. It was all about him and his ideas. He didn't know what was going on TV that was building to certain moments, and he just pulled the McMahon card with the match producers wanting things to be done his way. Shane was pushing back against producers who were simply trying to follow on what Vince McMahon told them should be done before and in the match. This goes back to early reports from numerous sources saying that Shane was very vocal towards Jamie Noble and belittling of Jamie Noble's involvement in it, and Shane was pitching like, I should do this, I should do that.
You think you know a guy, eh?
You think you know a guy. Shane just went overboard, says Wade Keller. Shane had real problems with how he was going to be framed as he was going into the Elimination Chamber. This is after the Rumble. The plan was to put Shane McMahon in the chamber. I think we'd heard something similar yesterday or the day before about Shane possibly being in the chamber. Yeah. But he didn't like the plans that were put forward. He pushed back, and this led to Vince just finally having enough and cancelling all plans with Shane. Everything they planned with him was done. From what I'm hearing, says Wade Keller, he is not going to be part of WWE in any way, on or off camera, for the foreseeable future. There could be a level of professional estrangement between Vince and Shane. I haven't found anybody who will defend Shane in terms of how he acted on Saturday.
You should chat to Shane. Shane's a big fan of Shane McMahon.
We've got Main McMahon on the line. Shane in a moustache. I thought he was fine.
You're not a real wrestler, mate. You can be very entertaining, but this is bonkers stuff. What a week for news it's been.
AEW, and it gets it more interesting because a top AEW talent reached out to Shane McMahon.
Dax Harwood putting on Twitter, "Holla at you boys," at Shane McMahon. So speculation is already rife as to whether or not Shane McMahon will go and join AEW. And I think this is especially bonkers.
It's bonkers.
Because everybody considers, according to these reports, everybody has for a long time considered that Shane McMahon doesn't have a great creative mind for wrestling. Sure, he's got a bit of money behind him because of the Ideanomics stuff. It's a very successful company. But Tony Khan has got a few more quid than Shane McMahon. What value could Shane McMahon bring to that company? Especially with the idea that a lot of people backstage are not very happy with him in WWE. The boys talk.
Bringing in Shane McMahon would just be literally for a metaphorical teabagging of WWE.
Yeah, for sure.
Literally, it would be like Shane would. If Shane was to turn up on Dynamite, it would be a gasp, some cheers, and then just boos. Once that sets in, that would be there.
He would do nothing backstage.
No.
He could do the cleaning or whatever.
And it's weird.
Change the ropes.
Yeah, but that would be it. Like if I was.
But what a guy! What a moment!
If
that
I
would
was
be.
Tony Khan, right, I would even as a one shot just go. Do you fancy having a chat? Just to have a McMahon on AEW television. For that reason only, I don't think Shane's got any more to bring.
But what if he's a mole? What if he's a mole? And this is Vince McMahon sending Russo to WCW
The deal has
to
been
destroy
finalised. The name on the contract does say Khan. But the name is Nick Khan.
I certainly don't see it happening. It's Vince McMahon's son. But if it happens, we're in for a really exciting period of pro wrestling, aren't we? How bloody fun will that be?
The latest on Shane McMahon's WWE departure you can find online throughout the day at cultaholic.com. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.